definitely preferable.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I need. That's how I work for that.
I did pop off. I just want somebody to beat me one time. The other way. Okay, here we go.
First of all, we'd like to thank the jury, all the members of the jury that spent 8 weeks of their lives working on this case, listening to all the witnesses, receiving all the evidence, hearing all the arguments. We're grateful for the service that they've rendered, and we also want to say we're thankful for Judge Mehta and his presiding over the trial. And so we come to this day. It's a mixed bag. There are good results and bad results mixed together. We're grateful for the not guilty verdicts that were received. We're disappointed in the guilty verdicts. If you look at these charges, there were many charges leveled against our client, Mr. Rhodes, and all the other clients. I assume that some of the other lawyers will talk to you about their clients, but we certainly are thankful for the not guilty verdicts that Mr. Rhodes received. We're disappointed with the guilty verdict. We feel like that we presented a case which showed through evidence and testimony that Mr. Rhodes did not commit the crime of seditious conspiracy. There was no evidence introduced to indicate that there was a plan to attack the Capitol. So I just want to say that we are grateful for the opportunity we've had to present the evidence on behalf of our client, Mr. Rhodes, and we're willing to take in your questions, Mr. Bright.
After 10 weeks of work, I think Ed just said it all.
Do you have any plans to try to appeal?
Excuse me.
Can you? We do. We're appreciative. Thank you very much. It's been a long 10 weeks. I'm ready to get back to Texas without question. I think Ed said a lot of it. The government did a good job. They took us to task. Hopefully there were moments that we offered compelling evidence and testimony in this case regarding Mr. Rhodes specifically. It goes without question we're disappointed. I'm at 25 total counts. There were 11 guilty verdicts, so that's, batting above the Mendoza line, certainly. So if anybody has specific questions, we'd be more than happy to answer them at this time.
Do you have a chance to talk to your client?
I cannot see you or hear you. Can you make yourself known?
Do you have a chance to talk to your client? What did he
Not
say?
yet, we haven't, ma'am. I'm going to go meet with him. He's given me some handwritten notes of some things that he'd like done, and we're going to look into all of it and take the proper appellate steps as necessary.
Are you planning to appeal the seditious conspiracy?
Of course.
Yes, absolutely.
Did you talk to the jury?
No, they didn't want to talk. I think they've had enough after 10 weeks. They were given the option that if they desired, we would be able to come back and meet with them in person, and we were informed by the court administrator that they had chosen to go home, which I respect.
Do you think they got a fair trial? They're concerned with the outcome of a fair trial here. Do you think the jury was fair? The process was fair?
I think that's a question to be very careful about. Look, they were out for 3 full days on a 50-page jury charge. It's hard to argue that that period of time they hopefully gave good conscience and thought to the verdicts they were rendering. The way that the verdicts were delivered seems it seems that they took the time to piece them apart. Like with Mr. Rhodes, guilty of one count, not guilty of another, then the next 15, 12, guilty, but then the next one not guilty. Obviously guilty on the aiding and abetting of destruction of evidence, and they kind of anticipated that one based on some of the signal messages that were sent out. But I do believe that they gave us a fair trial. An argument we made early on, and I think Mr. Tarpley would agree with me, there is, in my belief, a likelihood that had this been tried in a different jurisdiction, the results could have substantively been different. That's not a choice that we get to make. We obviously applied for it. But I do believe that they gave us a fair trial. I want to say one thing about the prosecution. I know some other defense team members may disagree with me about this, but I have an amazing amount of respect for the level of intelligence and the hard work that I know that those 5 attorneys for the DOJ have and the hours that they put in. We'd get emails at 10:30, 11 at night, sometimes at 4:30 in the morning, and have to respond. So this has been a really tough 10 weeks. And I mean it sincerely when I want to say thank you to Judge Mehta. He really held us to task. He pushed us hard. He kept us on really narrow timelines. But I've been practicing for 27 years, state and federal. Mr. Tarpley's been practicing for over 40 years. And I think it's very reasonable to say that Judge Mehta is one of the most intelligent judges that I've ever practiced in front of in 27 years. I have absolute respect for him. The demeanor that he exhibited the entire proceedings, even during periods of time that you could tell that he was pissed or angry at some of the shenanigans that may have happened. And he would come back and be cool as a cucumber and render proper rulings for the most part, I would agree. So an enormous amount of respect for him, and it's been a real pleasure practicing in front of Judge Mehta. I absolutely stand by that.
I'll have to say that when I first got in the case, as some of you may remember, I had pretty rough going for the first day or two from Judge Mehta, and I had to go back and meet with him, and he said, Mr. Tarpley, I've been kind of rough on you the first couple of days, but welcome to the case. And I said, thank you, Judge. And he's treated us with great respect, and we've argued our points. He hasn't agreed with us all the time, but he has agreed with us some. But we're grateful for those victories on evidentiary rulings, and certainly I think he's earned the respect of all the attorneys that participated in this case. And I agree with
this verdict. What do you think, if anything, it says for the next several seditious trials that January 16th is facing?
I don't know. We'll see you again in February, so we'll see about that. But I think there would have been a greater change in tenor and tone regarding the future prosecutions had there been not guilties on the sedition cases across the board. I think the return in this, even though we're not pleased with it, probably speaks to the fact that the DOJ is going to go full steam ahead in like fashion on all the others.
Did you say that in a different jurisdiction the results would have been substantively different?
I'm saying they could have been.
Could have.
An argument could definitely be made for that, yes. DC's a tough place to pull a jury for this case. I mean, it just is.
On that note, your client took the stand. How do you think his representation of his own authority affected the jury's perception of him?
I wish I could have asked him that, honestly. I think that's a really difficult question to answer. I would like to think that the testimony he offered, waiving the Fifth Amendment and doing what he did, helped to humanize him from being the boogeyman that he's been painted as. Whether it had that net effect, I don't know. I mean, I would like to think that it did. But as we said in opening, said in closing, the first day I met Mr. Rhodes in January 24th of this year, and I went and met with him in the holdover in Plano, Texas. There were two things that he told me as a condition of representing him that he was going to do. Never take a plea deal, and we could never keep him off the stand. So, obviously we admonished him and went over his legal rights with him, but we knew from the get-go there was no way that we could keep him from taking the stand, and he's going to be willing to do that in future trials on behalf of other defendants as well.
Yes, and we think he did a good job on the stand. He answered all the questions truthfully, and we were pleased with his testimony.
Will Flint testify in other trials?
Yeah,
That's his intention. Yes.
Do you think as a result of this case that the former president should be indicted?
Absolutely not. So
I'm not. Of the 10 terabytes of evidence that we've had available to us in this trial, I can tell you that there is nothing in the body of evidence that we've been given or shown that would in any way be indicative the ability to indict former President Trump for the January 6th events that we had on trial this week. Now, obviously, if other committees and the Jan 6 committee have information that we've not been given or made aware of, that certainly could change the calculus of that decision. But nothing that we've had at our disposal would indicate the ability to do that.
I agree completely.
Anybody else?
If Sorrell goes to trial, will he testify in that case, even though she wouldn't testify in his?
Kill us already.
No, I know what you're saying. I don't know. I haven't had that specific discussion with him, but I know that Mr. Rhodes has made it very, very clear that in the next couple of trials, February when Michael Green goes on trial, we had to talk with Mr. Green's attorney as recently as last night and spoke with Mr. Rhodes as recently as today, and that's certainly something he is intending to do and willing to do if asked. Anybody else?
Do you think the jurors are going to come to you?
They're not.
No,
They're
we're not.
not.
No, ma'am. They're not. And we respect the boundaries.
Absolutely. Well,
Washington, it's been a pleasure. I'm going back to Texas.
Well, let me just say this. We are grateful. The press has been very kind to us, and we want to thank all of you that waited out here diligently to speak to us. It's been a pleasure to get to know you during this last 2 months, and we appreciate the work that you do. And, it's let me just say it. I said this to the reporters inside with Lee, that it's a mixed bag. I mean, there are guilty verdicts and not guilty verdicts running side by side. So this is not a total victory for the government in any way, shape, or form. And so we are grateful and thankful for the fact that the jury found these defendants not guilty of many, many counts. So it's a complicated jury verdict. We're going to have to look through the charges and parse out the guilties and the not guilties. And that's something that lawyers and commentators will be doing in the days and weeks to come. But we are grateful for the work that we were able to do here. We're thankful to all those people that were praying for us and praying for the defendants. And we know there were many people around the country that were concerned about this trial and thought that this was an overreaching by the government. And so for that, we're thankful for all the support that we had. Anything else? Thank you so much.